My husband's first love returned to the country. He handed me a check as compensation, and my mother-in-law mocked me, calling me a barren hen who should pack up and leave. My sister-in-law and my husband's useless friends laughed, saying my good days were over. I chuckled to myself and made a quick call to my billionaire brother. The next moment, their smug faces turned to shock. Life doesn't always have a neat ending. Some people are trapped by their choices forever. Let's dive into the story, starting with the New Year's Eve gala. I descended the stairs in a burgundy evening gown, catching everyone's attention. For someone like me, who thrives on being the center of attention, their gazes were the highest form of praise. Tossing my hair back, I stepped off the last stair. "Your sister-in-law looks like she's doing pretty well," my sister-in-law whispered to her fake friends, loud enough for me to hear. She sneered. "She's just putting on a brave face. Ever since Jade came back, she's been moping around, sighing all day." Jade was my husband's first love, his so-called perfect woman, and now she was back. I picked up a glass of champagne, about to take a sip, when my mother-in-law's voice rang out again. "She's just a barren hen. 3 years of marriage, and not a single child to show for it. Now that Jade's back, she'll finally be out of the picture. Jade again." It was only now I realized she wasn't just my husband's ideal woman. She seemed to be the whole family's favorite. At that moment, my husband, Charles, appeared. I walked over with my champagne and casually linked my arm through his. Charles, the man I had loved throughout my youth. Even after all these years, he was still as handsome as ever. But in that moment, I had a faint feeling that everything was coming to an end. I raised my glass to him with a smile. "Charles, let's have a drink." He looked down at me, his gaze as cold and indifferent as always. I let out a soft laugh, withdrew my hand, and tilted my head back to finish the champagne in one gulp. I shook the empty glass at him and walked away. Almost everyone's eyes were on me, as if they were expecting some kind of drama. Of course, my husband's first love had returned. They probably thought it was time for me to step aside. That's what they were all thinking, wasn't it? In that moment, the love I had clung to for so many years suddenly seemed laughable. I went upstairs to my room and began taking off my earrings. Charles followed me in. He walked over and handed me a check. "Sophie, here's. Consider it compensation." I looked at him through the mirror. "Is this your way of saying you want a divorce?" Charles didn't hesitate. "Jade's been through a lot these past few years. I can't just abandon her." "So for Jade, you want a divorce?" I cut him off. He paused for a moment before replying, "Yes." I removed my earrings, placed them on the vanity, and stood up to face him. "Fine." He seemed stunned by how quickly I agreed. Honestly, there wasn't much to it. If he didn't love me, why should I hold on? 8 years. I had tried my best. I had no regrets. I picked up my phone and headed for the door. Charles called after me, "Sophie, the check." I turned back and let out a cold laugh. "Keep your money." Leaving the room, I dialed my brother Luke's number. "Luke, this marriage game isn't fun anymore. I think I'll just go home and take over the family business." My marriage to Charles was actually the result of a bet with my brother. At first, my family was completely against me being with Charles because they all knew he didn't love me, but I loved him to the point of obsession. In the end, my unwavering determination to marry Charles wore them down. My family finally gave in, but only on one condition. My brother gave me 3 years. If, within those 3 years, I could make Charles fall deeply and irrevocably in love with me, they would approve of our relationship. If not, I'd have to divorce him. 3 years have passed, and not only did Charles fail to fall for me, but he's also now asking for a divorce, for the sake of his true love, Jade. I lost the game. Fine then. Divorce it is. I'll go back home and continue down my bright open road. If Charles is so keen on walking his narrow, precarious bridge, then let him have it. I packed up my things quickly and decisively. Seeing me with my suitcase, everyone immediately understood. It was clear that Jade's place in Charles's heart was unshakable. Of course, why wouldn't it be? Jade is so gentle and sweet, exactly the type of woman men adore. Tisk, tisk. Who would have thought Sophie's good days would end so soon? After 3 years of living as a wealthy wife, what's she going to do now that she's leaving her rich husband? They whispered. Rich? Maybe to them, Charles is a wealthy man. To me, he's just a pauper. I didn't have to wait long outside before Luke arrived. Let's go. Leave the rest of the stuff behind, he said, gently patting my shoulder. Don't be sad, sis. I gave him a faint smile. I'm not sad. There's nothing to be sad about. I gave it my all. Even if I didn't succeed in the end, I have no regrets. Life is so colorful and full of possibilities. There's no need for me to be tripped up by this unreliable love and stay down forever. Besides, Charles isn't the only man in the world. When I got home, Mom and Dad were already waiting for me. Mom grabbed my hand, nearly in tears. What were you thinking? You've suffered so much these past few years. Now that you're back, don't cry anymore. You've escaped that misery, and from now on, it's all blessings ahead. Even Dad couldn't hold back his tears. Wasn't this a bit over the top? Sure, the Quinn family has a few million in assets. While that's nothing in a city like New York, Charles never withheld money from me during these 3 years. In fact, the only reason Charles agreed to marry me back then was because Jade had left him. Heartbroken and disillusioned, he figured that if he couldn't have Jade, it didn't matter who he married. Maybe that's why he felt guilty toward me and was so generous financially. When Luke was a kid, he was kidnapped once, so my family has always been extremely protective of me. Mom and Dad drilled into me from a young age never to flaunt wealth, as it could bring trouble. Perhaps this gave Charles the impression that I was poor, which is why he tried so hard to compensate me with money. The next morning, Luke drove me to the courthouse to finalize the divorce. As soon as we got out of the car, we saw Charles's car pulling up. He stepped out, and sitting in the passenger seat was none other than Jade. Funny enough, Jade and I were actually classmates back in the day. I walked up to Charles. Let's go. Charles glanced at the Maybach parked behind me, narrowing his eyes slightly. Who's he? He asked. I curved my lips into a faint smile. None of your business. Charles's face darkened. Sophie, you've wanted to divorce me for a long time, haven't you? I felt utterly disgusted by Charles's shameless behavior and had run out of patience. Hurry up and go in. Charles glanced again at Luke's car, standing motionless. What's the matter? Changed your mind about the divorce? Isn't Jade still waiting for you in your car? Charles gave me a dark look, hesitated for a moment, and then turned to walk inside. I followed him in, and we filed for divorce. There was a 1-month cooling-off period. After leaving the courthouse, I was about to get into my car when Charles called out to me, Sophie, if $200,000 isn't enough, I can give you more. How much do you want? I turned back and let out a small laugh. Keep your money for your future wife. You never really liked me as much as you pretended to, did you? Charles suddenly asked. We had been married for 3 years, and he had barely spoken to me during that time. Now, on the day of our divorce, he wanted to talk about feelings? How laughable. Charles, my feelings for you were real before. Now I feel nothing, and that's real too. Do you have any other questions? He didn't say anything more. I got into the car and Luke asked me, what did you even see in him? His face, I answered honestly. Luke instructed the driver to head straight to the office, giving me no time to catch my breath before shoving me into the director's chair. As soon as I sat down, a folder landed in front of me. This project is yours to handle. Go through the materials and get familiar with it, Luke said before heading out. Where are you going? I asked. To see your sister-in-law, he replied. I opened the folder and immediately felt a headache coming on. Was this even a project? The land hadn't even been approved yet. What was there to discuss? Fine. I'd start with the land acquisition. If I had to take this project from the ground up, it would only motivate me more. I immediately called my assistant, asking them to set up a meeting over dinner. That's right, men are optional, but a career is a must. The day the dinner meeting was confirmed, I received a call from Charles. He asked me to come by his place to pick up some things I had left behind. I don't want them, I said, about to hang up when his voice came through again. There are some personal items of yours. You might as well come get them. Otherwise, I'll throw them out or donate them. When I arrived at the house, everyone was there. Charles's sister, Quinn, gave me a once-over and sneered, "Wow, you've already landed another sugar daddy? That outfit must have cost a fortune." I glanced down at my clothes. This set cost less than $30,000. Is that expensive for you? Are you poor? Quinn was momentarily speechless. I ignored her, went upstairs with my team, packed up my belongings, and told them to donate everything. These were all things I had bought with my own money. As for the money Charles had given me back then, I told him after coming downstairs, "The money you gave me is still in the bank card. It's in the nightstand drawer." Charles froze, his expression shifting slightly. After a pause, he asked, "Sophie, do you have a place to stay now?" I glanced back at him without answering and walked out. Of course I had a place to stay, right next to the palace. As I stepped out the door, I unexpectedly ran into someone familiar, Jade. He looked like he'd been crying. When he saw me, he immediately avoided eye contact. I didn't greet him either. As I walked away, I overheard the staff gossiping. That Jade really has no shame, crying like that without worrying about embarrassing himself. If he didn't make such a scene, do you think Mr. Charles would have agreed to clear out his wife's things and make room for him? What kind of taste does Mr. Chin have? His wife is so beautiful, yet she's the one to be pitied. Jade is just a homewrecker, she's not pitiable at all. I heard Mr. Chin gave his wife a hefty sum as compensation. Money is better than a man, isn't it? I nodded in agreement. Indeed, money is far better than Charles. But I didn't take his money. It wasn't much, and I didn't care for it. I had more important things to do, like negotiating a business deal. At p.m., I was waiting in a private room at the restaurant. 5 minutes later, the head of the relevant department arrived. He was an old family friend, someone I always called Uncle Lee. I invited Uncle Lee to dinner, hoping he'd approve the land deal for me. But why did he bring along someone unrelated? Uncle Lee smiled at me and said, "Soph, let me introduce you. This is Theo, the CEO of the Hughes Group. Theo, this is Sophie, the daughter of the chairman of the Wansheng Group." Theo gave me a faint smile and extended his hand. "Hello, Sophie. Long time no see." Uncle Lee looked surprised. "Oh, you two know each other?" I composed myself, smiled politely, and shook Theo's hand. "Yes, we went to the same university. It's been a while, Theo." Uncle Lee seemed a bit awkward, subtly implying that Theo and I would have to compete for the land. I had been determined to secure this deal, but I hadn't expected Theo to be my rival. Back in college, I had once scolded him. Theo was notorious as the campus bully, and not just at our school, he had a reputation across other schools too. None of that had anything to do with me until he started targeting Charles. Charles was brilliant, a top student who never relied on his family. He even earned a full scholarship through his own efforts, bringing numerous accolades to our university. Theo, out of sheer jealousy, constantly picked on him. I couldn't stand it and confronted Theo. It happened during an interdepartmental basketball game. Charles was on our team, and during the match against Theo's team, Theo hit Charles in the face with the ball, causing his nose to bleed. Charles fainted on the spot. After making sure Charles was okay, I cornered Theo outside the lecture hall. "Theo, I know you won't apologize to Charles, and that's fine. He doesn't need it. But you're an adult now. It's time to grow up and stop acting like a jerk. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine I'd meet Theo again under these circumstances. To be honest, I felt like backing out. I've always been someone who fights for what I want, though. Yes, I should fight for this. I stood up and poured Uncle Lee a glass of wine. Uncle Lee, let me toast to you first. Uncle Lee took a sip and chuckled. Soph, your dad told me yesterday that you've returned to the family business. He used to complain that your brother was busy with his own company, and you refused to come back. He was so worried. Now that you're back, he's finally relieved. I smiled and nodded. Yes, I'll be taking over the company. I hope you'll continue to support us, Uncle Lee. Uncle Lee glanced at Theo and then changed the subject. By the way, Soph, do you have a boyfriend now? I could feel Theo's gaze on me. Back in college, everyone knew I had a crush on Charles. There's no way Theo didn't know. To avoid conflict with Theo, I decided to cut ties with Charles. In fact, we were already on the verge of having no connection at all. We were in the middle of divorce proceedings, currently in the 1-month cooling-off period. Uncle Lee was surprised but nodded and quickly changed the subject. Honestly, there was no need. Marriage wasn't a sensitive topic for me. After a few rounds of drinks, we got down to business. Theo came from a wealthy family. While people might say my brother Luke was the richest man around, the real elites were families like Theo's. To them, the rich lists were meaningless, which made me a bit worried about competing with Theo. But to my surprise, Theo said, "Since Sophie wants this piece of land, I'll step back." And it was true. I got the land. After seeing Uncle Lee off and watching his car drive away, I turned to look at Theo beside me. Theo was also looking at me. After all these years, she had grown much more mature and sophisticated. I suddenly realized Theo was much better looking than Charles. Back then, I disliked her for 2 reasons. First, she always targeted Charles and was his sworn enemy. Second, she had a notorious reputation. But thinking about it now, Theo and I didn't have any personal grudges. I smiled politely. "Thank you, Theo. I'll treat you to dinner sometime." Theo gave a meaningful smile. "It's nothing, just a small matter. Besides, I only gave up something trivial." I was genuinely surprised by how much Theo had changed. She didn't hold a grudge against me for the past and even let me have the land. I was really grateful. Since she said it so casually, I nodded with a smile and got into my car. "Sophie?" Theo called out to me. I turned back to look at her. "Anything else, Theo?" She took out her phone. "Add me on WhatsApp. Didn't you say you'd treat me to dinner? I thought you'd forgotten." After adding her on WhatsApp, I drove home. I got so busy with the project that I pushed everything else to the back of my mind. It was my mom who reminded me about the divorce. I immediately messaged Charles, asking him to meet me at the courthouse the next morning. The next day, Luke drove me there again, but he stayed in the car. Charles arrived too, and this time Jade came along. Jade even got out of the car. Charles walked toward me with a bright smile, looking much more spirited than before. "Sophie, long time no see." I smirked. "It hasn't been that long. I saw you just last month." I glanced at Jade, then back at Charles. "Let's go. Time to sign the papers." After taking a few steps, I realized Charles wasn't following. I turned back to see him still standing there, and I started to lose patience. "Charles, hurry up!" Jade gave Charles a small nudge, and only then did he walk toward me and follow me into the courthouse. When it came time to sign, Charles held the pen in his hand but didn't move. My patience was completely gone. "Charles, don't make me call someone to hold you down and force you to sign." Charles suddenly let out a cold laugh. "You're really in such a rush to divorce me?" What was wrong with this guy? He was the one who wanted the divorce because of another woman, and now I was supposed to beg him to stay? I called Luke and asked him to send a few people in. Charles's eyes widened slightly, but then he gritted his teeth, nodded, and finally signed his name and stamped the document. I finally got the divorce certificate. As soon as I stepped outside, Luke came up to me. "What happened?" "It's all good now. Let's go." I hooked my arm through Luke's as we left. "Sophie, I hope your life goes smoothly from now on. Take care of yourself," Charles said meaningfully behind me, leaving me speechless. Oh well, who hasn't had a dumb phase in their youth? Once we got in the car, Luke asked me, what did he mean by that? I shrugged. No idea. He's been acting weird lately, but at least we don't have to see him anymore. Luke patted me gently. That's good. By the way, how's the project coming along? I heard you secured the land. Impressive. You should thank Theodore for not competing with you. Just then, my phone rang. It was Theodore calling. Sophie, are you free tonight? You still owe me dinner. I quickly agreed. Of course, I'm free. If I could build a good relationship with Theodore, wouldn't that make my future in the business world much smoother? Seeing how happy I was, Luke chuckled. Who was that? Theodore. Theodore, I replied. Luke looked surprised but quickly understood. No wonder you were so quick to divorce Charles. I pressed my lips together, exasperated. My divorce with Charles is our business. It has nothing to do with Theodore. Don't act like Charles, making it seem like I was the one who cheated first. Luke narrowed his eyes suddenly. Is that what Charles said? I shook my head. Who knows what he's thinking? Luke sneered. That guy will regret it one day. Whether he regrets it or not doesn't matter to me. Your sister's got a career to build. At PM, I sat across from Theodore at a restaurant. He raised his glass with a smile. Congratulations. I quickly raised my glass as well. I should be thanking you for making it possible. I tilted my head slightly to take a sip, only to hear Theodore say, I meant congratulations on your divorce. I nearly choked. This was the first time anyone had congratulated me on a divorce. Theodore raised an eyebrow. What? Still hung up on your ex-husband? I set my glass down. Not at all. Theodore's lips curled into a faint smile, as if approving of my response. But he looked unusually pleased. Why? Whatever the reason, I might as well take advantage of his good mood and seize the opportunity. Clearing my throat, I cautiously asked, So, Theodore, what were you planning to do with that land you wanted to buy? He smiled faintly. I was thinking of investing in an industrial park. That lined up perfectly with my project. Well then, Theodore, would you be interested in collaborating with me? Theodore traced the rim of his glass with his fingers, giving me a meaningful look. Sure. He agreed so readily that I started to suspect he might be trying to lull me into a false sense of security before exacting revenge. But someone like Theodore should have a grander vision. I couldn't judge him with a petty mindset. As we ate and talked, it became clear that Theodore was a true professional. Working with someone like him, I was bound to surpass Luke one day. I couldn't help but feel delighted, so much so that I didn't realize my lips had been curved into a smile the whole time. Eventually, Theodore asked softly, Why are you so happy? I was about to nod but caught myself. After all, I was the project lead here, and the land was now under my control. Even when dealing with someone as influential as Theodore, I couldn't come across as too eager. So, I straightened my expression and nodded seriously. Of course. Being able to collaborate with the renowned Ted is naturally something to be happy about. Theodore chuckled softly, turning his head to look out the window. The curve of his lips seemed to deepen slightly. Do I look ridiculous? Fine. Clearly, Theodore and I are not on the same level. It's all because I haven't worked in the past few years since graduating, which makes me seem less confident. From now on, I need to keep up with Theodore's pace. As we walked out after dinner, Theodore asked, "Where do you live?" "I'll give you a ride." "No need, Senior. My driver is already waiting outside." "Don't be so formal. We're old acquaintances, and we'll be working together in the future." "Just call me by my name," Theodore suggested in a low voice. "Call him by his name, Theodore, or just Theo?" I hesitated. After all these years, I still call Charles by his full name. "What's wrong?" Theodore chuckled softly. I opened my mouth tentatively but couldn't bring myself to say those two syllables. It felt a bit embarrassing. "I'll stick to calling you Senior. It feels more familiar." Theodore nodded slightly. "Then I won't stand on ceremony, Soph." Those two syllables seemed to roll off his tongue lightly, almost teasingly. Why did it sound so gentle? In the end, Theodore still drove me home. In the car, he talked about many things. Sitting beside him felt like being a student getting a private tutoring session. A true leader is indeed a leader. His perspective is on a whole different level. I couldn't help but stare at him, not even realizing I was doing it. Suddenly, Theodore leaned closer. His thin lips curved slightly as he softly called my name, Soph. I jolted, snapping back to reality, my cheeks heating up. Theodore's eyes were filled with amusement, his voice still low and gentle. "Didn't hear me? Then I'll get a little closer." "No need." I swallowed hard. "I heard you loud and clear." "Hugh, what just happened to me?" It felt like I was under some kind of spell. When we arrived at my house, I invited Theodore in for a bit. He declined politely. "It's too late tonight. Another time I'll come by to formally visit your parents." "All right, good night, Senior." I waved as Theodore got back into his car and drove off. Entering the yard, the more I thought about it, the stranger it seemed. Formally visit your parents? Why did that sound like meeting the family? Theodore was acting really odd today. Back in my bedroom, I sent a message to my future sister-in-law and best friend Melanie. "Melody, do you remember Theodore?" After a while, a video call from Melody came through. "Why are you suddenly thinking about Theodore?" she asked. In the background, my brother Luke was bustling around, clearly busy with something. I glanced behind her. Melody smiled. "Your brother's cooking. He's all over the place. I'm not sure if it'll be edible. Luke never cooks at home, but for his wife, he's so obedient." "Am I interrupting you two?" Melody gave me a gentle smile. "Tell me, why are you suddenly thinking about Theodore?" I recounted everything about my reunion with Theodore and our upcoming collaboration. Melody suddenly burst out laughing. I was confused. "What's so funny?" "I think you've got a new romance coming your way," she teased. At that moment, Luke leaned over. "What romance?" Melody turned to him. "Theodore." Luke's brows immediately furrowed. "Theodore? Forget it. You just got out of the mess with Charles, don't jump into another one." Melody glared at him. "So, according to you, the only man in the world who isn't a mess is Lucas." "I'm a mess too," Luke replied, leaning down to plant a kiss on Melody's lips. "But it's a mess you'll never escape. My brother is so annoying." I immediately hung up the video call, and soon after, he called me. Over the phone, he said, "I don't care that you're working with Theodore, that's a good thing. But Theodore, just like his name suggests, is a man of deep calculation." "Sis, you can't judge people just by their looks. Haven't you learned enough from what happened with Charles?" He made it sound like I was some kind of love-struck fool. The day the land deal was finalized, Theodore and I went to inspect the site together. By late morning, Theodore asked me, "What do you feel like eating?" I was in a great mood. Not only had the land deal gone smoothly, but I was genuinely learning a lot from working with him. Plus, his network was broader than mine, and I could benefit from that. So, I turned the question back on him. "What about you? What do you feel like eating, Theo?" He chuckled softly and said, "Your treat." Of course, half an hour later, after we'd ordered at the restaurant, Theodore suddenly called my name Soph. Every time he called me that, it made me cringe. My nickname is Soph, but Theodore was the first and only person to ever call me that. It was a small thing, but it felt oddly intimate. I looked up at him. "The work over there is about to start. We need to keep a close eye on it. Are you traveling anywhere soon?" I quickly pushed aside any stray thoughts and shook my head. "No, I'm only responsible for this one project right now, so I won't be traveling." "Good. Let's stay in touch and exchange ideas as needed." Theodore's tone was light and smooth, almost like it had a hook in it. How had the school's former tough guy turned into this? "Theo, can I ask you a personal question?" Theodore's deep gaze settled on me. "Sure, but only if I get to ask one in return." Typical businessman, never willing to take a loss. I cleared my throat awkwardly. "I just wanted to ask, do you have a girlfriend right now?" Theodore gave a lazy smile. "Why? Thinking of pursuing me?" No. I waved my hands frantically. "That's a huge misunderstanding. I was just hoping to cozy up to someone as influential as him, nothing more. But honestly, Theodore's the kind of man who stands at the top of the pyramid. Whether it's his family background or personal abilities, he's incredibly attractive. I was just curious, that's all." "No," Theodore replied. I was a bit surprised. He wasn't exactly young anymore, so I figured he must be single because he was so focused on work. I could relate. I was in the same situation. After discussing some personal matters, I felt like the distance between us had lessened a bit. It also felt like I owed Theodore an apology. "Theo, about what I said to you back then." "I'm sorry." Theodore raised an eyebrow. "What did you say?" Oh no, I wasn't about to remind him. Never mind, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. There was no way I was going to bring up my past mistakes to someone like him. I smiled and changed the subject. "Back in school, I never saw you date anyone. Theo, have you really never liked someone before?" Theodore stared at me. "I have. There's someone I've liked since college. I still do." My jaw dropped slightly. Theodore was unexpectedly so, devoted. "Are you two together now?" He kept his eyes on me. "Almost." "Congratulations, Theo," I said sincerely. I was genuinely happy for him, but why did his expression darken? I hadn't said anything wrong, had I? Theodore leaned back lazily in his chair. "Now it's my turn to ask you something." I nodded. "Why did you and Charles get divorced?" I smiled faintly. "If he doesn't like me, then we'll just get divorced." "Do you still like him?" "No, I don't. I know exactly what I'm saying." To be honest, my feelings for Charles didn't disappear the moment he asked for a divorce. From falling in love with him at first sight when I was 17, to divorcing him this year at 25, my love for him was slowly worn away over those 8 years by his indifference. Loving someone but never being loved in return felt like carrying a heavy burden. So when I finally let go completely, I felt so much lighter. Theodore's expression gradually softened, and a faint smile appeared. "You deserve better. He doesn't deserve you." The industrial park construction was in full swing, and Theodore kept inviting me to inspect the site every few days. I didn't really understand, since when did site supervision become so meticulous? Today, I went there again, and afterward, Theodore said he'd treat me to dinner. Lately, we've shared quite a few meals together. When I got home, Melody came over. Seeing Theodore drop me off, she teased, "You've been meeting Theodore quite a lot recently. We're working on a project together, so of course we meet often." But that piece of land, Theodore could have easily taken it on his own. Melody's words reminded me. It's true. If Theodore had really wanted to compete with me for it, I'd have had a chance of losing. What did he say back then? Suddenly, it was like a string in my mind snapped, and something flashed through my thoughts. Melody, he said it didn't cost him anything, it was just Sophie. Melody gasped sharply, as if she'd uncovered some big secret. Theodore likes you. That's what I think, too. It all started to make sense. He gave me the land, collaborated with me, invited me to inspect the site every few days, and then took me out for dinner afterward. And he even called me Soph. It all came back to that phrase of his, "It's just Sophie." But there were 4 more words after that, to win over Sophia. I hadn't thought of it that way at the time, but now my heart was racing as I met Melody's knowing, teasing gaze. I couldn't help but laugh. But Theodore already has someone he likes. I shook my head, clearing my mind of those messy thoughts. It's a misunderstanding. Theodore has someone he likes, and they'll be together soon. Really? Who is it? Melody asked with a sly smile. It's probably someone from our college. He said he's liked her ever since university. Melody's eyes sparkled with amusement. That's so devoted. He must not just like her, he must love her deeply. Yeah, he must love her very, very much. That girl is so lucky to have someone love her for so long. Of course, that's a kind of love I can only admire. Melody shifted the conversation to business. As the chair of the Angel Charity Foundation, I always struggle with where to host the annual gala. This year, I'm out of ideas, so I thought about hosting an alumni event at our old college and using it to raise funds. That's a great idea. It'll be nice to see old classmates. I fully supported the plan. With my approval, Melody was delighted. All right then, I'll leave Theodore to you. When the time comes, you can hand him the invitation. Melody quickly coordinated with the school, and the charity gala was set for the evening of July 2nd, a Saturday. Perfect for everyone to gather, relax, and have some fun. I had picked out my dress a week in advance, a custom piece my brother Luke had ordered for me 6 months ago, from a boutique in Georgia, Topeka. As I stood in front of the mirror admiring myself, Luke called out impatiently from outside the door. Sis, hurry up. Tonight's your sister-in-law's big night. Go early and see if there's anything you can help with. Ever since Luke fell for Melody, my status as his sister had plummeted, but hey, I was the one who played matchmaker for them. I lifted my dress and stepped out. Why didn't you go with Melody? I asked. Luke grabbed my wrist and pulled me along. She's already there. Hurry up. It had been a while since I last visited the school, and not much had changed, except for a few new buildings. As we got out of the car, Luke pointed to one of the buildings in the distance. That one was donated by Theo. Okay, noted, I replied nonchalantly. As we walked toward the administration building, Luke said, Melody told me Theo's interested in you. He's not, I replied. She's mistaken. He likes someone else and has for years. Luke suddenly stopped in his tracks. Charles and Jade will be here tonight too, he said. I wasn't surprised after all, we were all alumni. Luke studied me for a moment, then broke into a smile. All right, let's go in. I caught up with him. What are you smiling about? Just happy to see you've completely moved on from Charles. He said, I've been over him for ages, okay? When we reached the banquet hall entrance, I looped my arm through Luke's. Melody's going to be super busy tonight. I'll reluctantly be your date then. Luke brushed my arm off. No need, I'm going to find Melody. Unbelievable. He was just going to leave me here by myself? I quickly followed him. Fine, I'll come with you. It's boring on my own. Luke opened his mouth to say something, but before he could, I heard someone call my name. Sophia! I turned toward the voice and saw Jade walking over, arm in arm with Charles. I had to admit they made quite the pair. Jade glanced at Luke, then gave me a once-over. Sophia, is this your boyfriend? Introduce us. There's no need, I said. Not the same social circle, what's the point? Charles stepped forward and extended a hand to Luke. "Hi, I'm Charles." Luke radiated coldness. I knew he disliked Charles. He didn't shake his hand, just gave a frosty smile. "Hi." Charles hesitated for a moment, then withdrew his hand, his expression darkening. Jade turned to me. "Sophia, your dress is gorgeous. What brand is it?" I told her and she smiled, nodding. "Oh, I've never heard of that brand, but it's really stunning. Though, to be honest, these smaller brands are getting more and more flashy and over the top. Probably just trying to grab attention. I actually prefer something more understated and simple." She added. I told Luke to go find Melody. Since I had nothing better to do, I figured I'd chat with them for fun. "Yours is from Dior's latest collection, right?" I asked Jade. "Yeah," she replied. "It's pretty understated." "Well, it's a charity gala, so wearing something off the rack is appropriate. My dress is a bit over the top for the occasion, but since my sister-in-law's the star tonight, I can steal the spotlight if I want to." Jade chuckled lightly. "True. I still have a ton of Chanel and Elie Saab at home that I didn't wear." "This one's the most low-key." Charles remained silent, just looking at me. Why did his gaze seem a little guilty? Do I look pitiful? Suddenly, Charles gently brushed Jade's hand aside. "Jade, I need to have a word with Sophia. I'll be back in a moment." Jade smiled broadly. "All right, I'll wait for you." Charles walked over to me. "Come with me," he said. I followed him to a quiet corner. He let out a barely audible sigh. "How have you been lately? Are you doing okay? Do you have enough money?" Before I could respond, he continued, "Sophia, I don't mean anything by this. I just want to make sure you're doing well." "Do I look like I'm not doing well?" I found it amusing. "Save it, Charles. Your concern should be reserved for Jade. I don't need it." I turned to leave, but Charles grabbed my arm. "Sophia, why won't you take my money?" "Why should I take your money?" Charles looked serious. "I remember you used to love buying clothes, but now..." "Is he not treating you well?" Charles was being his usual clueless self. He probably didn't understand women's preferences for certain brands. It was likely Jade had just mentioned that I couldn't afford Dior and had to settle for lesser-known brands, and now he felt guilty. "I'm doing great, better than ever." I brushed his hand off and returned to the crowd. Jade waved at me. "Sophia, come over here." She easily linked arms with me and introduced me to someone. "This is our senior, Melanie. She's the daughter of the CEO of Flagship Group." I extended a polite hand. "Nice to meet you, Melanie. I'm Sophia." "Sophia," Melanie repeated my name. "Senior, do you also like Dior?" Jade chimed in with a smile. "I really like the dress you're wearing, but it was out of stock, so I couldn't get it." "Really?" Jade nodded. "Yes, but the dress you're wearing is lovely too. Even though it's from a smaller brand, the craftsmanship looks quite good. Should I laugh, or should I laugh?" Melanie lightly touched the fabric of my dress. "It is indeed beautiful. I haven't seen this design before. Which brand is it from?" I told her the name, and Melanie let out a soft laugh, casting a glance at Jade. "Jade, do you usually not pay much attention to fashion?" Jade seemed a bit flustered. "I do pay attention to some extent. Brands like Dior and Chanel, I've recently placed orders, and they'll be delivered to my house soon." Melanie and I exchanged a look, and she smiled while shaking her head. "Jade, have you only heard of those brands? What about Georges Hobeika, or Elie Saab, Zuhair Murad?" Jade's smile froze, and her expression stiffened. "Of course I've heard of them." "Don't just hear about them, you should really get to know them. Those are just the basics," Melanie said, then turned to me. "Sophia, which brands do you like? If it weren't for the current travel restrictions, we could plan a trip to Fashion Week together." Melanie, being part of the socialite circle, clearly looked down on people like Jade. Jade was only embarrassing herself. I mentioned a few brands I liked. Melanie's eyes lit up. "Oh, I remember now. When you were 16, you wore a gown from that brand to the Paris charity ball. I saw the photos." Melanie sighed regretfully. "It's a shame they only invite the world's top socialites to attend. I don't have that kind of privilege." "What?" Jade looked at me in shock. Melanie, meanwhile, hooked her arm through mine and walked away. After we had gone some distance, she smiled and said, "It's not that I look down on people, but some people are just downright ridiculous." "Yeah, I agree with that," I replied. "I don't think I'm superior because of the circles I move in, but Jade's antics really are laughable." "Thanks for earlier," I said, knowing Melanie had been helping me deal with Jade. Melanie gave a small smile. "No need to thank me. It's an honor to have the chance to be friends with you." "See? Another connection for me," I joked as we chatted. Suddenly, a commotion broke out nearby. When I went to check, I was shocked to see Luke and Charles fighting. "What's going on?" I stepped in to break it up. Charles pointed at Luke. "This is the guy you're into? He was just getting cozy with some woman. Look at the lipstick on his mouth." It was partly my fault for not explaining things clearly to Charles, but I never expected him to stand up for me like this. First, he wanted to give me money, then he hoped I'd live well, and now he was fighting for me? And at such an important event? Why didn't he treat me this well when we were together? Pressing my lips together, I introduced them. "This is my brother, Luke, and this is my sister-in-law." "What?" Charles was stunned. Luke wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and let out a cold laugh. "So, Mr. Charles is standing up for my sister? Well, as her brother, I should thank you." "But," Luke continued, "my sister doesn't need anyone to stand up for her. After all, no one dares to mess with the Soph family, right?" Charles seemed to realize something, staring at me in disbelief. "You're part of the Soph family? That Soph family?" I nodded. "No more pretending. My brother's a billionaire." "I'm laying it all out." Charles was incredulous. "Then why didn't you ever tell me?" "Why should I tell you about my family? You don't even like me," I replied. Charles stammered. "Go find Jade," I interrupted. "She's always flaunting her Dior and Chanel." "With your millions, buy her some better clothes so she doesn't look like such a nouveau riche embarrassment." As soon as I finished speaking, Jade appeared. I noticed the muscles in her face twitching. "Let's go. You should take care of that wound," I told Luke. Melody helped him away, and I was about to leave too when Charles grabbed my arm. "Sophie, don't worry. This is just an ordinary charity gala. Everyone here is an alumnus. We're just here to have fun. This won't get out." I smiled and continued, "Even if it does, it won't affect you. It's not like you're in the same league as the top-tier elites anyway, right?" With that, I went to grab the auction catalog. The fundraising would start soon, in the form of an auction. I had even donated an emerald necklace. After a while, everyone took their seats and the auction officially began. I had already picked out a few items I wanted and was determined to win them. Just then, someone sat down in the empty seat next to me. It was Theodore. "Senior, I thought you weren't coming," I said. Theodore, dressed in a tailored suit, leaned in slightly, his voice low and close to my ear. How could I not come when my junior sent me an invitation? Why was he talking like that? I got goosebumps. Theodore glanced at the catalog in my hand. "See anything you like?" I had a vague feeling about what he meant, but I didn't dare think too deeply. I just smiled and shook my head. "Just browsing." The auctioneer's voice had already started echoing through the room. The initial items were only going for a few hundred or a few $1,000s. After all, this was just a school alumni event, not some gathering of top-tier elites. Next up, this emerald necklace donated by Sophie, starting at $10,000. So far, my necklace was the most expensive item in the room, but people were still raising their paddles. Before I knew it, the bids had climbed to $100,000. Then Theodore suddenly raised his paddle. $200,000. In truth, my necklace was only worth about. But wow, with that one move, Theodore instantly elevated the entire auction to a whole new level. "Theodore, what are you doing?" He raised an eyebrow, a playful charm in his expression. "I like it. Besides, your necklace is priceless to me. $200,000 is already a bargain." I glanced around from the corner of my eye. Great. Now I was the center of attention. I do enjoy being in the spotlight, but the kind of attention Theodore was bringing me made my legs feel a little weak. Then came the item I actually wanted, an antique pipe. Its starting bid was only $1,000. I immediately raised my paddle, but Theodore followed suit. From the very beginning, it was just the two of us competing for this pipe. Sure, he's a big shot, but does he really have to snatch something I love? I refused to back down. That $1,000 pipe ended up being bid up to $100,000 by Theodore. Was he out of his mind? "Theodore, are you doing this on purpose?" He chuckled lightly, clearly in a good mood. "Finally, you called me by my name, Soph. It was just a name, but why did saying it feel so embarrassing? I don't want it anymore. Going once, going twice, sold." I officially declared I hated Theodore. I pulled out my phone and texted Melody. "That 18th century bedside table, can you bid on it for me? If Theodore finds out I like it, he'll definitely try to take it from me." That despicable man. Theodore leaned over and asked softly, "Are you mad?" "No." "Okay, fine." My tone betrayed me. After all, it's impossible to hide your feelings when someone's on your mind. Ugh, my poor antique pipe. In the end, Melody successfully won the bedside table for me. "Got it," I gloated, then whispered to Theodore, "Actually, I had Melody bid on that table for me." Ha! Outsmarted him this time. Theodore paused for a moment, then burst out laughing. He laughed so hard his chest seemed to resonate. "What's so funny? Why are you laughing?" Suppressing his laughter, he finally looked at me. "I just think you're too adorable, Soph." Once again, I declared I hated Theodore. The auction eventually came to an end. Thanks to Theodore and Luke, the event raised nearly $5 million in donations. All of it would go toward supporting students and research projects at our alma mater. Theodore was quickly surrounded by a crowd of people. "Theodore, we know you're rich, but come on, we're all old classmates. Did you really have to show off like that?" I joined in. "Exactly." Theodore smiled faintly. "What can I say? For a beauty's smile, no price is too high." As he spoke, he cast me a glance filled with meaning I couldn't quite decipher. I froze for a moment. Could he possibly be referring to me as the beauty? Everyone burst out laughing. "Who's caught Theodore's eye? She must look like an angel to have made the cut for him." Theodore glanced at me and nodded. "Yes, an angel indeed." My cheeks started to burn. Oh no, was I overthinking this? I quickly made my exit, but before I could get far, Charles grabbed me. He pulled me outside. "You like Theodore, don't you?" I yanked my arm free. "What does that have to do with you?" "Sophie, you know he and I are sworn enemies. Why are you getting involved with him?" "Involved? What do you mean by involved? We're both single. Even if we were together, it would be perfectly reasonable. Who are you to interfere?" A lazy voice suddenly chimed in. Not just reasonable, but completely justified. I turned around to see Theodore walking over, with Jade trailing behind him. "Charles?" Jade hurried over. "What's going on?" Charles glared at Theodore without saying a word. Anger flashed across Jade's face as she glared at me. Sophie, you and Charles are divorced. No matter how much you cling to him, it's meaningless now. Cling to Charles? That's hilarious. I haven't even mentioned you being the other woman, and now you're accusing me. Other woman. Don't be so harsh with your words, Jade said, lowering her head as if she'd been gravely wronged. It was disgusting. She was still playing the innocent victim. I'm just stating the facts. During the 3 years I was married to Charles, can you honestly say you two didn't secretly meet? And when you did, what exactly happened? Do I even need to spell it out? Sophie, Charles started, but I cut him off. And you, Charles. I originally wanted us to part ways amicably, but it seems you don't feel the same. If you really want to go against me, fine. I won't hold back when it comes to dealing with scumbags. With that, I brushed past the two of them and headed out. Just as I reached Luke's car, I heard Theodore's voice behind me. Sophie, need any help? I wouldn't mind taking down a scumbag and his mistress. I spun around and glared at him. You're just like them, always bullying me, and you even took my antique pipe. Theodore, I hate you. The next morning, as soon as I opened my eyes, regret hit me like a wave. Why did I lose my temper with Theodore last night? All he did was take my antique pipe. He's still way better than Charles and Jade. Did I offend the great Theodore? I sighed and picked up my phone. To my surprise, he had sent me a message. Site inspection tomorrow at another inspection? We've been to the site 3 or 4 times this week already. The foreman must be sick of us by now. I quickly replied, got it. I spent a while getting ready before heading downstairs for breakfast. At the table, my dad was reading the newspaper and asked, how are things going with Theodore lately? Going with him? What do you mean? I asked, confused. What could possibly be going on between me and him? He put down the newspaper. The project. Oh, that. It's just getting started, but it's going well so far. No issues yet. My dad nodded approvingly and turned to my mom. Our daughter's really proving herself now. Once this project is completed, she'll have firmly established herself in the company. Let's see who dares to call her just a pretty face then. I knew there were people in the company who didn't take me seriously, saying I only had my family background and looks to rely on. My dad was right, I need to give this project my all. When I arrived at the construction site, Theodore's handsome face appeared before me, his eyes smiling. Was I still upset? No. I was being honest. Charles and Jade weren't worth my anger. As for Theodore, there was no way I'd let myself get into a spat with him. Who could resist the allure of a top-tier guy like him? Honestly, no one. Theodore glanced at his watch. Let's go. I'll treat you to dinner. Dinner again? You haven't even tried the tea yet, I replied. Theodore raised an eyebrow. If I hadn't mentioned tea, would you have agreed to meet me? I was momentarily stunned. He'd been saying things like this a lot lately, making me overthink while trying not to read too much into it. Besides, didn't he already have someone he liked? I felt a flicker of irritation and turned to walk toward my car. Theodore quickly caught up to me and blocked my path. Why are you upset again? Is it still about that antique pipe? He chuckled, took my hand, and pulled out a delicate little box from behind his back, placing it in my palm. I opened it for a peek. It was the very antique pipe I had admired at the charity gala yesterday. What's the meaning of this? I asked. Theodore had initially intended to make me smile, but now he seemed to realize he'd upset me instead. I knew the beauty I was trying to impress was you, he said with a grin. And you are a beauty after all. But don't think I'll accept this pipe so easily. Take it back. I don't want it, I said haughtily. Theodore chuckled softly. Really, you don't want it? I tilted my chin up and looked away. I said no, so no. Theodore sighed. All right, seems like the pipe is useless now. In that case, I guess I'll just have to offer myself instead. At that moment, I realized something. Theodore liked me. But hadn't I once taken Charles's side against him? Melody suddenly seemed to think of something. Why do you think Theodore always targets Charles? Her question made me pause and reflect. Do you like him? Melody asked. I thought for a moment, then shook my head. I don't know. I really don't know. Let's just forget it. I just want to focus on work right now. By the way, what's going on with Jade? I asked. I saw a lot of people in the group chat mocking her. Did Melanie say something? I chuckled lightly. Isn't Jade with Charles now? Maybe her lifestyle has improved a bit. At the gala, she mocked my dress for being from a small brand, unlike her Dior couture. Melody smirked. She reminds me of how clueless I was when I first started dating your brother. Your social circle is tough to break into, but you and Jade are nothing alike. Besides, you don't even need to force your way in. They're all eager to pull you in themselves. Melody had never acted arrogant just because she was with Luke. Jade, on the other hand, seemed to cling to her new status for dear life. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Theodore. Dinner tonight? No, I replied. Theodore, what will it take for you to grace me with your presence for a meal, Miss Sophie? Well, since he asked so nicely, I decided to play hard to get. Let me think about it. I'll let you know when I've decided. Theodore sent a crying emoji. I'm heartbroken. Smooth talker, I muttered, tossing my phone aside and continuing my chat with Melody. That evening, Luke came home and cooked us a feast. Thanks to Melody, I got to enjoy my brother's culinary skills once again. After dinner, Melody said, Don't leave tonight, it's too late. I sat cross-legged on the couch flipping through a fashion magazine. I hadn't planned on leaving anyway. My brother Luke lives downstairs. He really is my actual brother. My phone buzzed again. It was another text from Theodore. This time it was a picture, a plate of fish fillet and a glass of champagne. Since you didn't join me for dinner, I had to make do with something simple. No appetite. Oh, come on. No appetite, but still drinking champagne? Theodore, if you come over, I'll bring out my best stash. You can drink as much as you want, but if you drink too much and get drunk, that's on you. Theodore, seriously? Forget it, I'm not dealing with him. A little while later, Theodore sent another message. Are you mad? I ignored him again. Then he called. I hung up and blocked his number. Theodore blocked. I set my phone aside and went back to my magazine. But every so often, the phone would buzz again. He really had nothing better to do. It wasn't until I was getting into bed that I finally opened his messages. You still have that emerald necklace of yours at my place. When are you coming to get it? I'm heading out for an inspection tomorrow. Why are you ignoring me? Still mad? He kept sending messages, one after another. The last one simply said, Good night. I locked my screen, set the phone aside, and turned off the lights. In the darkness, I couldn't help but smile. Was Theodore trying to pursue me? The next day, I went straight to the office. Theodore sent me a ton of messages throughout the day, all of which I ignored. What I didn't expect was a call from Charles. Since I was in a meeting, I declined the call. About half an hour after the meeting ended, Charles called again. This time, I picked up. Sophie, can we meet? He asked. I was flipping through a proposal as I replied, Don't worry. As long as you keep Jade in check and don't bother me again, I won't do anything to you. Charles was silent for a few seconds. Then his voice deepened. I just want to clear some things up with you in person. I was puzzled. What's left to clear up? I don't know what you're talking about. Can't you just say it over the phone? I don't want to meet you. I hung up directly. Then another message from Theodore came through. I bought 2 movie tickets. When do you get off work? I'll come pick you up. What? I never said I'd go on a date with him and now he's already bought the tickets? Acting first and asking later, huh? I still didn't respond. Just then my dad came in. Sweetheart, I have to go on a business trip to New York. I nodded. Okay, leave the company to me, Dad, don't worry. Dad sighed. Actually, I could just leave the company to you entirely. What do you mean? Haven't you always been running it? Dad replied, Well, in that case, I guess you'll have to take this trip for me. Luke ignores me. And now Dad is trying to trick me too. I can't stay in this house anymore. Fine, I'll go on the trip. This trip ended up lasting half a month before I returned. To celebrate the success of my first business trip, my parents threw me a welcome back party. Honestly, I was speechless. Did they think I was that incompetent before? Was a single business trip worth celebrating? It seemed I had really let them down in the past. For Charles, I'd been utterly blinded. Thankfully, I've come to my senses now. I'll never let that happen again. Because this business trip went so smoothly, my dad officially announced to the public that I would be the successor of the Weston Group. For someone like me, who had always kept a low profile, this news catapulted my name into the spotlight, instantly drawing the attention of major business and finance magazines. I became a sensation, even making waves in the entertainment world. Some online users started comparing me to other wealthy heiresses, but most of the comments were along the lines of me being too inexperienced. Lately, Charles had been acting a bit strange, either calling me or sending me messages. That evening, as I left the office after work, I saw Theodore leaning casually against his car. Clearing my throat, I lifted my chin and walked toward my car with a dignified stride. Theodore approached me with a smile, stepping in front of me to block my path. I stopped, raising an eyebrow. Ted, long time no see. What's the matter? Theodore's smile deepened. You didn't reply to my message. I met his gaze directly. I didn't feel like replying. And when do you plan to reply? He asked. I shrugged. Theodore stared at me intently, making me feel slightly self-conscious. Dropping my confrontational expression, I pursed my lips. Do you need something else? He continued to look at me, and after a moment, he suddenly said in a low, husky voice, You're so damn beautiful. When I got home, my cheeks were still burning, and my heart was pounding wildly. Theodore, that charmer, he really knew how to get under my skin. Biting my lip, I grabbed my phone and quietly removed his number from my blocked list. So, does this mean I'm falling for him? I called Melody. What do you think I should do? Melody laughed. What are you even talking about? I couldn't stop the corners of my mouth from curling up. Theodore came to see me just now. Guess what he said to me? Melody giggled uncontrollably. I kicked my legs in frustration. Ask me already. Hurry up. Melody burst into laughter. Soph, this is the first time I've seen you like this. Are you feeling like everything is sweet and rosy right now? Just thinking about him made me smile. I pressed my lips together. How did you know? When your brother was pursuing me, I felt the same way, Melody admitted. Honestly, when he first confessed to me, I already had feelings for him. But I still made him chase me for a whole year. Why? I asked, puzzled. Maybe I was just being difficult, she said with a laugh. Even though I liked him, I wouldn't admit it. But Soph, you can't deny it. This stage of ambiguity is the most exciting. You should cherish it. When you look back on it later, it'll still feel sweet. I don't need to look back. It already feels sweet now. So, are you going to make him chase you for a year too? That's up to you, Melody said. Back then, it wasn't just about enjoying the ambiguity. I was insecure. I didn't feel like I deserved your brother. But you're different, Soph. I placed a hand over my heart, still feeling it race like a wild deer. Then I'll wait for him to say he likes me. But I didn't hear Theodore confess his feelings. Instead, I heard it from Charles. That's right, he told me he liked me. It happened that day when he suddenly showed up as I was about to get into my car. He grabbed my arm, stopping me. "Sophie, I need to talk to you." I looked at him, surprised. "What are you doing here?" He stared at me intensely, his expression urgent. "Sophie, Jade, and I broke up." "What?" I thought I liked him, but after spending time with him, I realized it was just an obsession. "The one I truly like is you," Charles confessed with deep emotion. It was the first time I had seen him so worked up. He was always cold and distant around me before. The contrast was startling, but honestly, it was more amusing than anything else. "Is that so? Well, that's unfortunate because I don't like you anymore." Charles's expression turned sorrowful. "You've fallen for Theodore, haven't you?" "That has nothing to do with you." I pulled my hand away. "Charles, I told you, we should part ways amicably. Please don't come looking for me again. Can you give me another chance?" He stepped closer, looking at me earnestly. "I'm begging you." "Sophie, I really regret it. The truth is, I've liked you for a long time. Do you remember that year in college when I had my appendectomy, and you stayed with me all night in the hospital? I'll never forget that day. In fact, I remember every single day we spent together. That's what they call too little, too late." Charles's eyes reddened, his voice filled with pain. "I hate myself so much. Why did I refuse to admit my feelings for you when I realized them so long ago? Charles, it's all in the past now." I let out a long sigh. "We're not possible anymore." Charles's sudden confession left me deeply shaken. The person I had loved throughout my youth was now telling me he loved me too. I suddenly wanted to laugh. Maybe this was fate playing tricks on us. I didn't want to become enemies with Charles because that would invalidate the sincerity and effort I had once poured into him. But the truth was, I no longer loved him. I had truly let go. Goodbye, Charles, and goodbye to my youth. Wait a second. I'm only 25. I'm still in my youth. After rejecting Charles, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I called Melody to grab dinner, and afterward, we went home together. Around 8 o'clock, Luke suddenly sent me a video. I opened it and saw two people wrestling with each other. It took me a moment to realize it was Theodore and Charles. Theodore, who had been a notorious troublemaker back in the day, quickly overpowered Charles and pinned him to the ground. He pointed at Charles and shouted, "You've got some nerve trying to win her back." Charles wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "Soph likes me. She loved me for so many years. I don't believe she has no feelings for me anymore." The video ended there, but I could tell they were fighting right outside Melody's apartment building. These two men actually ran over there to brawl. How childish could they be? A little while later, Luke came home. "Are they still fighting?" I asked. Luke smirked. "They were still at it when I came upstairs." Melody walked over. "Why didn't you break it up? One of them might be your future brother-in-law, you know." Luke glanced at me. "Theodore?" I lowered my head, feeling guilty. I remembered how Luke had once warned me not to get involved with Theodore. "Why are you feeling guilty? If you really like him, do you think I could stop you? At least Theodore is way better than Charles. He's worthy of my sister." I buried my face in a pillow, groaning. "Luke, what are you even talking about?" His response was silence. Luke finally said, "When you were chasing after Charles back then, I didn't see you feeling this embarrassed." I went back to my room and called Theodore. He picked up quickly. "Miss me?" That playful tone of his was undeniably sexy. "Did you get into a fight with Charles? Why did you come all the way here to brawl?" "Theodore, come outside. I'll tell you. He's still downstairs." "Downstairs? Has Charles left?" I changed into a fresh outfit and went downstairs. Under the street lamp, There was only Theodore. As I got closer, I noticed a faint bruise on his cheekbone. Is that all the damage you took? Yeah. Suddenly, he pulled me into his arms and kissed me deeply. I struggled, my heart racing, my legs turning to jelly. After what felt like forever, he finally let go. His voice was hoarse. Soph, I can't wait any longer. Hit me if you want, or let me chase you for the rest of my life. But I need to claim my rights as your husband in advance because you are destined to be mine. A true domineering CEO, living up to the title. Fine. Then you can keep chasing me. I laughed, then went to get some ointment from Melody and treated Theodore's bruise before sending him home. Lying in bed later, I received a text from him. Love, I love you. He finally confessed. But who's his love? Theodore. I'm not that easy to win over. Keep chasing me. The next morning, as I was brushing my teeth and looking in the mirror, I noticed the corners of my mouth were curved upward. I think I might like Theodore too. All right, I'll go accompany him on his inspection today. But before I could, I got a call from Jade, asking to meet. When we met, Jade grabbed my hand and started crying her heart out. Sophie, you already have everything. Please don't take Charles from me, I'm begging you. I pushed her hand away. I don't want Charles, he's all yours. If you can hold on to him, good for you. If not, it's none of my business. With that, I walked past her, ignoring the sound of her sobbing behind me. Sophie, you're just lucky. You're not that special. Maybe she was right. I was lucky to be born into a good life. But so what? That doesn't give anyone the right to hurt me. I got into my car and drove straight to Theodore's office. Theodore, I need you to come with me for the inspection now. He smiled warmly and extended his hand to me. At your service, my queen. I nodded in satisfaction. This queen hereby officially permits you to pursue me. A year and a half later, my first project was completed. The industrial park's investment and recruitment efforts were a huge success, and I officially took over my family's business. During an interview, a reporter asked me, Ms. Sophie, some people say you've always relied on your family and men. What's your response to that? I lifted my chin slightly toward the camera. This queen never bows her head. Being born into a good family is part of my strength. Also, I'd like to clarify one thing. When Theodore and I worked together, we had no personal relationship. And even now, there's nothing between us. That evening when I got home, Theodore pinned me to the bed. I've been chasing you for over a year, and you're still saying there's nothing between us. I raised an eyebrow smugly. I told you from the start, I'm not easy to catch. Theodore smiled and steadied himself. It's okay. I'm willing to pursue you for a lifetime. So, when should we go get the marriage license? Tomorrow. All right. After we get the license, I'll keep pursuing you. When should I tell Theodore that I like him too?